What was it that they used to say on Dad's Army? Don't panic. A second defeat of the season for Nigel Clough's men at home to Crewe Alexandra on Saturday afternoon saw a little bit of panic hit social media. Was that due to the defeat? Was it due to not getting a shot off? Was it due to injuries and lacking personnel? One thing's for sure, with only 2 league defeats this campaign, there's nothing to worry about. The Stags still sit in second place in Sky Bet League 2 with games in hand over leaders Stockport and, well, let's face it, are nowhere near as bad as they have been in the past. Yes, they could do with a little bit of transfer activity, but things are still looking good. It's time to keep our heads and just jump on the rail replacement services. Let's get in a striker, let's refocus and go again as we head to Morecambe. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for some positivity. This is the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters Podcast. Hello, good evening and welcome to the Mansfield Matters Podcast, the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Thanks, as always, for joining us. Just going to prove a point that we do podcasts even when we've lost games. Yes, to the one Crewe fan on social media that replied to our tweet saying, I bet you don't do a podcast when you lose a game. Well, here we are. And it's not just me ranting about the defeat, it's you guys at home in the comments as well. And alongside me here at Mansfield Matters HQ, let's say hello, good evening and welcome to Mr. Alan Wilson, who will talk and say a little bit more than just hello so I can check that he sounds okay in my ear.
Hello, good evening, Craig. Good evening, everybody. Hello, testing 1, 2, 3.
Very well done. And Jim, hello as well.
Hi, Craig. Evening, everybody. Hope everybody's okay.
You need to say more than that.
More than that?
Yeah, more than that.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
And that works. And to be honest, if you can't, it works. Let's be honest. If it doesn't work and you can't hear it, blame Cam. We can blame Cam, can't we? He's not on this week, is he? He's not. No one can. What? He's what?
Yeah.
Is it what?
Is it, laddies? Here he is.
2 weeks in a row. Are you feeling all right?
Yeah, positive. Yeah, I played around with my background the last couple of weeks, so I've kind of just been busy and job hunting and other things that seem to have fallen literally every day that we've done a podcast. But I'm back a second week in a row, and shock horror, we've lost and Nathan's not here.
I know, he did promise, didn't he? And he is watching as well because he's literally put something in the comments. So I know he's watching and I know he's there. If he's watching, he can do the podcast. He did promise that when we lose a game, he'd come back on. Still no sign of him. I think there's more chance of us signing a striker in the next hour than there is of Nathan coming on this podcast. And I'm confident that we won't be signing a striker in the next hour. So there you go. Your background moving around, by the way, hasn't worked because we can still see his face. So anyway, shall we talk all things Stag, shall we? Cam, no, it is lovely to see you as always. That's better. Yeah, it's lovely to see you as always, and you're always welcome. You always know that. It's just a shame that you actually can't be here in person, and joining us in HQ. Will be? Hopefully, you'll join us next week, where I can get away with taking the mickey out of you, because obviously, it's a very special day next week. Anyway, more on that later on. Shall we talk defeat then, gentlemen? Because we were sort of talking, weren't we, before the game, Alan, a little, and before the podcast, sorry, about our thoughts and feelings towards it, and we were all sort of left a little bit bereft and a little bit frustrated. But in reality, it's our second defeat of the season. Second defeat of the whole season. What? 24, 25 games now? 2 defeats.
Yeah, it's just, there's no need to hit the self-destruct button. I mean, we were all disappointed. And like I said earlier on before we came on here, it was the worst goal I've ever seen Mansfield concede. It was so poor. They were just, I think they were trying to be Manchester City and passing it about instead of putting it in row Z. But there's no need to panic. Don't let's hit the panic button, guys. You know, we're still there. We're second. Let's keep positive because it'll turn it round on Saturday at Morecambe.
Jim, it's one of those goals, isn't it, where when you see Mansfield concede it, where you're just sort of so frustrated with it because we're so used to that sort of passing style, but not that far back. If you're passing it around on the edge of your own goal line and you're inside your 6-yard box, you're asking to concede, aren't you?
Well, you remember back to your school days. It's one of the first things they tell you at school is you don't mess about with it in your own box. And it's schoolboy, isn't it? And it was just you watch the highlights from the top leagues around Europe, every weekend, and you'll see multiple teams giving goals away like that. It's the way football seems to have gone. I don't particularly like it or subscribe to it, but yeah.
It was a very frustrating afternoon. Cam, it's one of those, isn't it, where, like we say, in hindsight, it's only the second defeat of the season, but I think a lot of the negativity, and there was only maybe a small, maybe 30% negativity of in the whole context of it all, but I think a lot of that comes from, like Richard says in the comments, it's the first time we've failed to score since Wimbledon, God knows how many games ago. Also, with the injury news that has sort of been bubbling, it looks like, it is going to be a long one now for Reece Oates. Callum Johnson's also probably not going to be back till early March as well. So I guess when you take those combinations and put those together, you can understand a little bit of the frustration.
Yeah. And the goal on Saturday, it was frustrating because we don't particularly start. We have shaky starts. You think Notts County, for example, first 10, 15 minutes there, we weren't brilliant, but we had time to fix that, and we did on Saturday. And if we're totally honest, we should have won that game on Saturday. Yet again, we've created chances, very good chances, and wasted them. So obviously the frustration is there because we conceded a soft goal, but we'd got 90 more minutes, 90 plus minutes to fix that. And we just wasted chance after chance after chance. And we can sit here every day of every week talking about Mansfield Town wasting chances, even if we win a game. Well, that's when we've won a game and we're wasting chances and it's now cost us one. And yes, it's only our second defeat of the season, but it is still very frustrating, just the way that the game panned out.
The biggest thing, I think, is definitely the injury situation, Jim. I think with Reece Oates sort of looking like he's going to be out long term, Callum Johnson, like we sort of said, looking 8 to 10 weeks, so that puts him probably early March. It's not really going to have a lot of time to sort of come back and make an impact just when he was getting into his stride as well. The transfer window is open. There are numerous rumours of a striker. And even though 2 weeks ago, it's funny, isn't it, how some things come to bite you back on the backside. We were sitting in this room and I in particular was sort of saying, I don't think we particularly need anyone. But that was before Reece Oates, the diagnosis was there and it looks longer than what it actually is. And now I think we'd all just breathe a collective sigh of relief, wouldn't we, if we did bring in a striker. Not necessarily one who's going to score you 10, 15 goals between now and the end of the season, but more for a presence and an option than anything else.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and I think we will. I think we'll bring in two, to be honest with you. I mean, the positive is that it's happened now and not in the second week of February. And I think the positive from Saturday's defeat is, I think, if we'd have drawn or won that game and still wasted loads of chances, all the cracks would have been papered over, and we think everything's fine because we won. Because we lost, it laid it on the table bare where we're short, and I think at least it's happened now, early January, and I think hopefully it will give the club that push to go and bring two players in, and I'm sure we will.
The other push, Alan, is also to the players within the dressing room, because we've seen it historically in previous seasons when you're on the crest of a wave and sort of riding high, and then you sort of get a little bit of a rock and a defeat. You don't like the taste of it after so long. So actually it does spur you on and think nobody in this dressing room wants this feeling again. So it drives that extra 5% and sort of recharges the batteries without actually having to plug them in.
And I think we'll see that on Saturday because all the interviews that you hear, everybody's so positive. There's no negative comments at all, or not that I've heard anyway in the interviews. There's a bubbling atmosphere in the changing room. Everybody's happy together. If they can't get in the side, they're quite willing to sit on the bench until it's their turn. and it just seems to be a positive place at the moment. But I'd be more concerned if we weren't getting the chances. Admitted we're not taking them, but if we weren't getting them, I would be concerned.
Keep your comments coming in. Have your say on your team throughout the live feed tonight. Drop a comment in there, and we'll have a little read of it. Whether it's a crew-related comment, any comment about the transfer window, etc., etc., anything Mansfield-related, drop it in the comments and have your say on your team. I'll come to a few of them in just a second. But Cam, I'm going to come to you. Obviously, there's a lot of rumours swirling around at the moment. There was almost a cryptic tease from one of the Stags directors on social media earlier on. Are we about to land Lee Gregory on loan as certain Twitter agents are coming, or are we just putting 2 and 2 together and getting Nathan's favourite number, 5?
I'm sort of torn between the two. I think that there will be something potentially in it. I think he's one of these players that we get linked with every so often. I think we had it last season, previous seasons before that. And it'd be a perfect time to bring someone like him in, for example. I think it'd be a good addition. Right? It's not going to be the 20, 30 goalless season striker like some of our fans are wanting, but it will be a little bit towards that. But it's all around just getting another body in the door, and it'd be a very good addition. But saying that, there's no real credible source that's reporting it yet. So, for example, I think it's Pete O'Rourke is usually one that's pretty on it, not seeing anything from him. There's a few others, but it just seems that it's these sort of like call themselves ex-agents, and it's like, anyone could say, I could set up right now an ex-agent profile and say Messi is going to sign for Mansfield Town tomorrow.
You've got to make it a little bit credible. I mean, there is a credible link with Lee Gregory, obviously with Aidan Flynn, and the fact that he's played for us before, and the fact that he's local. So they've got to make it a little bit credible.
Exactly, but it's just another easy one to go with. To be fair, Flynn just came out of nowhere. Whereas this Lee Gregory one, this has been rumbling on for the last couple of weeks now, and there's still no 100% credible source. No one's been able to say actually where it is, other than supposedly have seen him at the RH, supposedly have seen him in Mansfield. Well, you might have seen him in Mansfield because he'll still have family that live in Mansfield. And oh, shock horror, he's from Mansfield. So he might still come to Mansfield to see family or do whatever. So it doesn't mean he's signing for us.
I mean, I don't want to stir the pot, Alan, but I did drive past the Moncall Stadium on my way home early today, and I did see the number plate L33GRY. So am I onto something or what?
Well, it could be, providing you tell him the truth and you not keep winking.
Where's that master spoon?
That's just a tick in my eye. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, the club are very good at keeping things coy, though, aren't they? Usually, if we've been linked with a player, it usually means we're not going to sign them. And how often do you see a signing and the first time you've ever heard their name is when they're holding up the scarf? So I would take it all with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, everything in January is always a pinch of salt. Right, let's go to a few of your guys' comments. Keep them coming in. Have your say on your team. Richard says, evening guys, I take full responsibility for the defeat to Crewe last Saturday. I'd been bragging to all my mates in Sheffield, Wednesdayites, Blades and Rotherham fans that we'd be top come Saturday evening. Sorry, and so you should be, but we'll forgive you. I also blame it's never a good sign when this happens. Jim, you will have seen the guy next to me. I sat down, and the guy next to me, I'd never seen him before. He said, I've come and taken such and such a seat today. I've not been all season. We're probably going to lose.
Yeah, that's a good start, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know what to say to that, really, but it's not a good start, is it? I must admit, before the game, everyone was thinking, yeah, we're going to win, we're going to get top, 3-1, 3-0. I think I said, 1-1, and that was the best. You just could feel it. And I did think we'd get a point, even when they scored, to be honest. And I was disappointed we didn't even score. But we're struggling at home, aren't we? Let's be honest. We're just struggling to break teams down. We can always keep the ball out of the net if we really, get on it. But we're struggling to break teams down at home.
I think everybody's going with the game plan, aren't they? And if that's the case, they've got to find a way around that.
Yeah.
I think that's something, Alan, which you just hit the nail on the head, really, with that. Because the one thing I walked away from One Call Stadium on Saturday was that thing of teams are going to do this now. The more the league we get, the more longer unbeaten we get. Teams are going to come and sit, put 5 players across midfield. They know we like to play out. They know we don't like to hit it long. So they're going to press us high, which is exactly what they did for the first goal. Give us no option but to try and play out. And then when we do try and play, they're so compact in there, we've got absolutely nowhere to go. And I do think there's going to come a time where teams will just come in and you just know what's going to happen. We need to find that other way around it because teams have figured us out.
And I think it will. And I think that will happen. I don't know whether that's one of the reasons why Nigel was sat in the Bishop Street stand, to get a different view, a different perspective, should I say, on things. I'm not sure whether it worked or not, but I'm sure there's irons in the fire, and I'm sure it'll be sorted because he knows what he needs, and I'm sure he'll get it.
Sick of looking at that stand. That's why I sat in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Or he loved Jordan Bowery so much, he wanted to be so close to him. You know, he was close to him first half, close to him second. I don't blame him at all. Cam, let's stay on that particular topic, though, of teams coming to try and nullify us and really compact that midfield. And I actually think there's a few teams that have done it well this season, but I actually need to hold my hands up and say Crewe did their homework, and I think it's probably one of the best sides I've seen in terms of defending against what we can do at home. They gave us very, very little. Yes, we created chances, but we didn't put the ball in the back of the net. They stopped us, they frustrated us, they pressed us high, and they got their due rewards from it.
I think we've maybe a little bit guilty of having short memories, to be honest, because you think back to New Year's Day and Stockport fans are feeling exactly the same as we are right now. They were fantastic at home, and we did a job on them, and somebody's come to the One Call and done it to us. So you can see teams, regardless of who it is this season, whether it's a team up near the top or up near the bottom, you're going to know exactly how we're going to play. And it is all just part of football. You've got to take it sort of like just game by game, but you've got to know that teams are just going to come and set up and not let you play. You look at even Wrexham when they came in the league. We should have won that game comfortably, but we didn't take us chances and they defended relatively well. When we went to Notts County, all right, other than the first 10 minutes where we let them have too much of the ball, but other than that, we didn't let them have a sniff. We made them play it from the back every time, not letting them go long, not letting them go straight through the middle like they have done for every other team this season. So it is frustrating, but we've done it to plenty of other teams. It's just, like you said, it's just finding another way around it.
I think it was the first time, Jim, that we'd sort of maybe seen a little bit of our vulnerabilities on Saturday in terms of not quite having the rub of the green. We're so used to it this season. We missed Oates terribly, I felt, with his pressing and the way he sort of leads from the front at times and he's running and getting into channels. And because he was absent, you know, players like Davis Keeler-Dunn were having to sort of do that role and get a little bit wider. Like me and Alan have said numerous times on this podcast, it's not really the game where he's effective in doing that. And I don't know, I just felt it was the first time this season where even though with all this squad depth that we've got, it's just one of those where we just couldn't put a finger on it and just had no answers.
I think that lack of pace was definitely a problem because it changes the entire tactical outlook of the game, doesn't it? I mean, Oates just needs to be on the pitch and he frightens defence to death and they drop deep, whether he touches the ball or not. And I think that's definitely a problem when he's not playing. But someone told me at work actually a stat this week. I think Wrexham have scored twice the amount of goals at home that we have. So I think there is definitely a goal scoring problem there. But there is definitely a real template on how to come and stop us now at the One Call. Definitely.
Keep your comments coming in. Have your say on your team. Martin in the comments has said, in my opinion, we're playing far better away from home. I think the results certainly reflect that a little bit, Alan, as well. But maybe that's because we've got a little bit of freedom. We know that it's a thing with home games sometimes that we can be a little bit tense when things aren't quite going our way. We really need to find that balance.
Yeah, it might be the case, that when we go away, they have to try and stop us because it's all guns blazing, isn't it? Usually they start pretty well and then, they finish all the way through the game. and they're not doing they're doing really well away. But one thing I will say, from the home game, just one point from there, a lot of people on social media are saying how tired Akins looked. And I just feel sorry for the bloke because he gets pulled from pillar to post, don't he? He must have a shirt 3 times as big by the time he gets off the pitch.
The problem with that though, Jim, is the fact that we're relying on him at the minute because
Mm.
Oates is out.
Yeah.
Will Swan's clearly not up to scratch, or Nigel Clough doesn't seem to fancy him or give him the opportunities. The only other option we had with injuries and what have you was Abdullah, who had played for the 18s earlier that day. So you're limited to what you can sort of get out of him as well. So and then the only other option probably is Jordan Barry, but then you've got Callum Johnson missing at right back, and all of a sudden you're spinning plates, but you're just putting tired legs up there. You're running at half speed.
Yeah, when he's not been playing Akins this season, we've seen how much we've missed him.
Yeah.
But I just echo what Alan said. He's been kicked all season, terribly so. And
There's no respite, is there,
No.
for bloke? You know,
No.
even with the officials, they just don't. They don't help him out.
No, they don't protect him at all. I mean, we don't want bias, but they're not
No.
even. It's ridiculous, and you can see it sat right up in the Greaves up there. But I agree. He's apart from Barry, I think who could do that role, but he's been deployed elsewhere. There's no one really who can play that role, and since Hawkins left, I think we've been short of that sort of big unit up front.
That's the Jim Hawkins bell. Every time he's on, he always mentions Ollie Hawkins. Cam, gonna talk. I want to stay on that point actually because we were sort of debating whilst we were making a coffee downstairs about the Lee Gregory situation and whether or not Mansfield need him, because we felt as a collective that his game doesn't necessarily suit the type of football which Mansfield play. But on Jim's point there, what he made about having someone to hold the ball up and be a little bit of rough and tumble, actually, when you think about it, Gregory will sort of suit that role a little bit more. And it also means that we don't have to break glass in case of emergency and chuck Aidan Flint up front.
Well, yeah. Yeah, it is. I've got to feel sorry for Lucas Akins on Saturday and Aidan Flint, to be honest. Every time the ball went in the box or anywhere near the box, they were just getting pulled pillar to post. And to say how soft Crawley got a penalty earlier this season, a couple of weeks ago, I'm bemused how we didn't get one on Saturday, because poor old Aidan Flint and Lucas Akins, yeah, they must have had a shirt 3-4 times the size. Just every time the ball went in the box, just being pulled and kicked and wrestled. And to say the officials are supposedly cracking down on it, you're not seeing it. And it's not trying to make excuses, but the frustration is quite clearly there for someone like Lucas and for Aidan, because they both kind of just sort of like every time when the ball gets booted back up other end of field, they just stood there like this to officials, like, what am I supposed to do? And it must be so frustrating.
Peter put in the comments, Alan, about the only option that we seem to have when we're struggling is putting Aidan Flint up front. And I think, like Cam said there, it does sort of give you that target of we might try and get a free kick or a penalty out of it, but sometimes the referees don't want to know. But for me, it smacks of desperation when we're putting them up there. I think even if we don't bring somebody in, I think we've got other options.
We thought this about Hawkins.
Yeah, which we could sort of throw up there. And I don't know, the more early on in the season when we saw Flint go up front or stay up for 5-10 minutes after a corner, you're thinking, all right, yeah, it's not so bad. But now it gets like the 60-minute mark, and I think I turned to the guys that I sit next to and to my dad, and I went, it's only a matter of time before it happens, and it inevitably did.
Yeah, I just think it's a shame as well, because when Swanee came on, he'd only been on about a minute or 2 minutes, and he had that chance. And if he'd have been on a little bit earlier, I know this is all hindsight, if he'd have been on that 5 minutes, 10 minutes earlier, he might have been able to control it that little bit better and put it in onion bag. But, you know, it'd only just come on, he was like a bit perplexed, if you like, you know, oh dear, what do I do here? You know, it only just come on, hadn't it?
The trouble is we've got at this time of season is the fact that we can't really afford to give players time to develop and come into their own now. We're at a critical stage where every point matters. We need to keep the pace against our opponents
Sorry.
and things like that. Go on.
Just jumping in.
Have we signed him?
We have got signing news.
Oh, okay. Well, you've got it in front of you. Go. You have come into use. You have come into use.
Mansfield Town defender Aidan Flint has extended his contract at the One Call Stadium until the summer of 2025. The club is delighted to announce.
2025. Wow, great
Right.
news.
That is good news.
Yeah, I mean, I know Sarah, who I work with, will be absolutely delighted.
See, we signed a striker.
Yeah, there you go. We have signed a striker.
Close enough.
Well done. Do you know what? That does it does absolutely deserve.
Any difference to Mr. LG?
You think that might have an adverse effect? You think
Who knows?
a positive effect?
Positive effect, yeah.
Who knows?
Wow. Interesting though. I mean, you've got to be honest. Let's take the Lee Gregory part of the equation out, Cam, for a second, and look at that. Obviously, he's extended his contract till the summer of 2025, which is great. Obviously, has been captain for us this season since Alfie Kilgore's injury. And he has been the pillar of our successes on the pitch. And to be fair, being a Mansfield lad and things like that, we know he's capable of playing at a higher level. And if we are wanting to get promotion this season, which I still very much think is the aim, we need somebody of his calibre to carry us in League One. And if we continue his job mentoring the likes of Lewis Brunt, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because in contrast to the situation 2 years ago when we signed John Joe O'Toole on a longer contract, there weren't clubs in for him. We've not offered him stupid money from what we can tell. We might have done, we don't know. But what it's done, it's given us a little bit of security, and actually it shows that we're committed about developing and building rather than just getting in on the act.
Yeah, it's crucial that we've managed to tie him down longer, because we got, obviously promotion is the target this season. If we don't, there's not a cat in hell's chance we'd be able to keep hold of him. He has been absolutely immense, and we have got the best defensive record in the league. So no doubt he'll end up in the team of the season at the end of the season, and somebody will come fishing for him. And we've been guilty of this in the past, where we've had our best players. I think the one that sticks out the most is probably Matt Green in the conference days, not tying him down to a contract, and then he's left for nothing. And I get, right, we've not paid any money for Flint other than maybe a signing on fee and his wage, which isn't going to be as much as what it would have been for when he was at Stoke and Sheff Wednesday. But it's still going to be, we're not going to be recouping anything. So get him tied down to a new contract and then see where it goes. If we're in League One next season, great. We've got a solid linchpin in that defence. And if we don't, then we've got a solid option at centre-back to mounting another charge in League Two next season. It gives us options.
Can I just say, I think it's another masterstroke from Nigel.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree, actually. I think he's built well, and I think he's known what he wants to do. And having players like Flint back there, I'd agree. It's exactly what Clough has done since day one, and that's build for the future. Yeah,
and that's a quality signing. That is real quality, and it means a lot because obviously he wants to stop, and that's the big thing, isn't it?
Shall we hear from what he said?
Oh, right. You got some more news.
I can't give you the audio, but speaking to MansfieldTown.net, Aidan said, "I'm delighted to extend my stay at the Stags. I'm really enjoying it here and love everything about what this club represents. Since I arrived here, I've been made to feel very welcome by everyone at the club, and I feel really settled. I'd like to express my thanks to the chairman, chief executive, and the manager for extending my contract."
I never knew you could read. Brilliant job, mate. Well done. No, seriously, I think that's everyone's going to be expecting a striker coming in, Cam, and that's the news that everybody would have wanted to see. But if you could have chosen any other piece of news, that was it.
I'll take it.
He had a mouthful of tea then, didn't he?
I did.
So never
I'll
drink tea
take
when
it.
I'm asking you a question. Jim, let's stay on the Aidan Flint thing for a second. Obviously, we all said 2025, like it's that too far in the future. Let's not forget that's the end of next season, but still, it's a great, secure bit of business.
Well, I think he's been our best player this season, to be honest with you. He's so influential on, it's not just his own performance, but the entire team around him. And that defensive record, to me, is a lot down to him and his leadership and experience. And yeah, it's fantastic. He's still doing it. He strolls that division, doesn't he? With his eyes closed, and he probably could League One. So yeah, it's good. And it bodes well for attracting other people as well, doesn't it? If you're tying down players like that, we're an attractive club to come to at the moment.
Yeah, we are. And hopefully, Alan, it's the first of many contracts to be renewed, because as much as we do need to bring one in that forward area just to cope with what inevitably will probably be Rhys Oates out for the season, not confirmed, by the way, by anybody in any way, shape or form. That's just a presumption on my part there. But having Aidan Flint there is a bit of a draw as well, and it just having those extra players to sign, it's like we keep saying, it's about putting those building blocks in place regardless of what division we're going to be in.
Yeah, and with Aidan, whether he went to Nigel or Nigel went to him or however it came about, it's a certain positive for the club. And you think at the end of the season, if and when we get promotion, what happens to Lewis Brunt? Now, if Lewis Brunt goes back and Leicester think, oh, they're in League One, and look who's signed for another year, under his stewardship, it can only be a good thing, I think, and people will see that too. Oh, well, like Jim said, Mansfield's an attractive place to come. Let's see what they can offer.
It has so many layers to it. That bit of news today. That's absolutely brilliant. Keep your comments coming in on that and all things elsewhere. We will go back to talking about Lee Gregory and bringing him in after the little break as well, because we were just about to talk about that, and then that news hit, and we all thought it was that, and then we've all ended up in a bit of a tiz. I love it in the January transfer window when news happens, when either we're just about to go live or we are live. It's great. Love that happening. It's been happening for 7 seasons now. Long may it continue. Andy in the comments, Jim says, Flint, Kilgore and Cargill, all good enough for League One. Let's not leave Elliot Hewitt out of that as well when he comes back. You have to say, regardless of the Flint thing or whatever, we've built a squad which is capable for League One, and we just need to add those extra tie those extra laces together in terms of the other players that are out of contract in the summer. Your Ollie Clark, your George Marises. There's a fair few. There's more than what you think, I think.
Hewitt and Kilgore were our sort of 2 best players last season, weren't they? And we still got those to come back. So, yeah, it's all good. We're not far off. I think the right 1 or 2 additions and we're title challenges very easily. I don't understand any sort of negativity, really. If you can't be positive this season, you never will be.
Yeah, I completely concur. Right, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll come back. We'll talk more about a potential signing of Lee Gregory. We'll talk about a potential signing of a striker, and we'll have a little look ahead to our upcoming fixtures as well. As always, this is the place for you to have your say on your team. This is the Mansfield Matters Podcast, proud to be part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. You're with the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters Podcast. Keep your comments coming in and have your say on your team. Someone in the comments, we were talking about Lewis Brunt before the break, says he's contracted until next summer with Leicester. We could possibly sign him. He'd certainly be one that I'd keep on my radar, but as they say, never fall in love with a lone player. As is always the norm at this time of the season as well, Cam. You get a rumour about one player, then it goes a little bit quiet and things like that. I think we live now, don't we, in an age where me and you are more used to it than these two alongside me, which I say with the greatest bit of respect meant. You know what I meant, and they knew what I meant. Don't you start. But the social media age, when there's rumours swirling around, I don't think it helps your cause in January. It just unsettles things and just puts people's minds racing, and I'd much rather it. I'd very much have to bite my tongue sometimes. The only time it's true is when the official club channels say it.
Yeah, like I said before, there's your reputable sources, specific ones individually. Usually it's just like when, for example, someone like Lee Gregory, you're going to hear it from a source closer to Sheff Wednesday than you are from Mansfield, because there's just more coverage. Sheffield Wednesday are one of the biggest clubs in the country, regardless of the division they're in. There's a lot of people that take an interest in them in the media. As much as I hate it, the Sheffield Star, that'd be one of the first places to hear if it was going, and there's just not really been anything. And the bonus of living up here is obviously you just see a bit more of what's happening, and it just seems all quiet. It doesn't seem like, if it happens, brilliant. But if it doesn't, I won't be surprised, because there is just no rumblings about it, particularly up here, other than spill-offs from whatever's come up from Mansfield.
They've signed somebody today, haven't they? A centre forward is it from France?
Yes, and that was supposedly the catalyst.
Yeah, that's what started all the rumours again, weren't it? Or it seemed to be.
The only rumor, the only thing that is concrete is the truth, and that's when he's got a Mansfield scarf. And I can't wait for one of the fake Twitter accounts to dig out the photo of when he first signed under David Holdsworth. Some 12 years or so ago, back in the conference, scored on his debut against Southport, and then quickly disappeared off the radar. Had about 4 loan spells elsewhere, and it's just it's one of the other reasons why I thought he probably wouldn't want to come to Mansfield, Jim, to be fair, because we gave him his chance. We gave him a game. He scored a goal, and then we didn't give him a chance to develop and quickly shift him up here, there, and everywhere. Yeah, the revolving door was very much in full effect. Different club now, though, isn't it?
Yeah, football moves on quickly, doesn't it? And it's a long time ago in his career as well. And I don't think that will register too much with him now. You know, it's a bit different set of people at the club now, really. So I don't think that will really affect him if he's going to come. I mean, watching Nigel's interview, he said there's 2 or 3 people on his radar. If you sort of read the script from the full interview, so I don't know if it is Lee Gregory, it is, but I suspect it'll be people we haven't even thought of.
That's usually the case. How important is it, Alan, to keep our focus and just focus on the pitch and the next game that's coming up? Because realistically, we lost our last game. We need to bounce back, and we need to keep the pace. It's irrelevant about who we might sign, who we linked with, whose car has been seen in Sainsbury's car park, who's got a friends, dog walkers, next door neighbours, cats, sisters, uncles, cows, brothers, cousins, son, who's heard from the next door neighbour's flight attendant, sister, cousin, that such and such is signing because they've seen him they enrolled their kid at a local school. All of that is absolute bullshit, and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, does it? So, and that's about as strong as what the rumours are circulating in social media. We need to focus on supporting the players that are signed and contracted to Mansfield Town Football Club, and allow the management and their staff to do what they do best.
That's it. What will be, will be. But I think it'll give us that extra boost and that extra push now for Saturday. Knowing with the Flint situation, I think that's just the extra boost. That's an excellent signing, an extra boost for Saturday. And I just hope Mr. Swan gets a full 90 minutes if possible.
Yeah, Alan's calling for 90 minutes for Will Swan, Jim. We were just about to talk about that before the Flint news broke, if memory serves me correct. Not that I can remember what I was saying 2 minutes ago, let alone 20 minutes ago. Old age, you see. 33 next Thursday. Make sure you join us. Party time. Anyway, what was I saying? Swan. See? Yeah. Old age catches up with you. It's one of those things now, isn't it, where we desperately want him to be the player that he was last season. I revert back to 2 things. One, the fact that we're a year or so on and we played a completely different style of football to what we did when he was scoring all of his goals. And 2, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Because if you give him time and he doesn't produce, you're on his back. But then if you don't give him the time, you're on the manager's back because you've not given him time. And things like the Central League and fixtures like that, we're not hearing a lot about them at the minute. So those minutes and that potential to get them time is there. So what do you do? Do you gamble and give him time, or do you stick with the likes of Akins and Bowery and put somebody else in at right back? Because you've got to queue at people that are knocking on the door at right back who are arguably more deserving and more more effective than what Will Swan is at this moment in time.
I mean, we're away on Saturday, and I think an away fixture is perfect for Swan. If you're going to be more on the counter attack, I think that's ideal for his game. And we know there's a class centre forward in Swan. We've seen it, so enough to give him a 4-year deal. So I think you give him time. I think he will come good. I think he's starting. He seems to be better than he was at the start of the season. The rumour I heard, I don't know if it's true or not, and I don't want to pry too much into the lad's private life, but the rumour I heard was that he'd split up with his girlfriend in the summer, and he was out on the razzle in Nottingham every night, and that's why his performances weren't very good. I don't know if it's true or not, but he seems to be, I think, better than he was at the start of the season when he's come on.
I can confirm that Jim heard that from his next door neighbours, dogs, uncles, sisters, aunts, primary school teachers, primary teachers. No, I can't remember. Otherwise, what I'm trying to say is rumour.
Rumour, yeah.
Rumour. Cam, on that point though, in terms of giving him a 4-year deal and things like that, good players don't become bad players overnight, do they? And we've still got. It's not a write-off if he doesn't come good this season. For me, with Will Swan, I would be looking at the far bigger picture with him. We've got another 3 seasons of him after this one. Let's get somebody else in that can come and influence on our short-term period of the rest of the season, and let's drop him down a level, similar to when James Gale gets fit as well. And it's one of those things, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, develop him in order for our better future.
I don't want to make comparisons to players in the past, but for example, this is what we were saying about players like Alistair Smith, James Gale, James Clark, sending them out on loan and developing them rather than just making them play. I think Swan's good enough to keep around the first team. I think if you had to send somebody out on loan if he was fit, you'd probably look at James Gale more than anyone. But it does nobody any harm if you've got the bodies to be able to send somebody out on loan. So, for example, next season, if we got promoted and we wanted to send Swan out on loan to another League Two club, fine. No problem with that. I think that'd do him the world of good. I think when you're a lone player, I suppose there is that little bit less pressure because you're not that team's player. All right, they're paying you the wage and you still got to perform. But if things don't go great, you're not like you're going to be frozen on the bench constantly. You're just going to end up getting recalled and probably sent somewhere else.
Sorry.
It's frustrating because we know the quality that Swan's got. And like you said, we're not playing 100% the same style of football. But same again, when Swan has had the opportunities and he's had plenty, he's not produced. And that's on him.
Could he do the Oates role?
I don't think
he's sharp enough, isn't he?
See, the thing is, at the minute, I think we're at this point in the season with him now where he could do it, but then that's learning a completely different game, and it's not doing him any favours. Nigel Clough's giving him little tidbits here and there, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. It's not necessarily enough. We don't know whether there's a deeper lying fitness issue. We just don't know because Nigel Clough is very coy when it comes to that. That or people aren't asking him the questions. Completely different conversation. But it's a thing now where you have to sort of weigh up how do you get the best out of the player, but also how do you get the best for our future? Because I don't like being presumptuous, but we are in a position now, we said it last week, where if we don't get promoted this season, then there is something seriously wrong. So as we sit at the minute, we are looking about building our future and building towards competing in League One next season. And a confident Will Swan, I think, would thrive in League One, but we have to get him confident now. I don't think the way to do that is to give him 5-10 minutes here, 5-10 minutes there. I think it's to accept that we've lost him for this season and put him in that development category and then bring him back into the fold next season, like we might do with Anthony Hartigan, for example, who's obviously out on loan at Barnet this season. But in order to do that, because we've got this injury situation, you've got to bring somebody else in. I genuinely feel that if Reece Oates hadn't got injured, and if James Gale maybe was back a little bit quicker, or we may be able to bring another one in with a fit Reece Oates, Will Swan would have gone out the door. So I want you now to role play and pretend that you're Nigel Clough, and I want you to decide what you would do, considering what I've just said. Do you 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, short term, and see what happens, or do you go, he's not the right player, I need to look after him and his mental well-being in terms of like his development and his want and desire to play 90-minute regular football, because at the minute I as the manager can't give him that, and then do you look to get him out to a team that's competing at the top end of the conference?
Slightly disagree there. I would, if I was Nigel, and it's only my opinion, I would take Will Swan, if he's had a good training week, whatever, take him to one side and say, look, we know Reece could be out for a while. This is your big chance to step up. We haven't got Mr. Gregory or whoever in just yet. I'm not saying we won't get him in, but it's your big chance now. I'm going to put you in the start 11, give him a bit of confidence. You're going to start on Saturday up front with Lucas Akins or whatever, and let's see you do the business. That's
Jim?
what I would do.
I'm a bit torn. I mean, I really
All right,
like...
Natalie and Brulia, calm down.
Yes!
I think a bit at the end of the day, like you say, the manager's got to make a decision. We know how good he is, and I certainly won't want to lose him long term. But the fact of the matter, he hasn't done it this season. He has looked off the pace and lightweight. I tend to agree with you. I don't think he's going to really do it this season, in my opinion. Even though he is getting back, I think mentally to what he was possibly, but the form's not there. And I'd want to keep him long term, but I think this season is a write off for him. I think.
Cam, what about you? If you were in that situation, if you were Nigel Clough, given the scenario that I put to these two, which way would you be swaying?
I don't know. It's a difficult one, but I'm very much on the fence. I'm torn. Burnham. Sorry to use the same joke again. I don't know. Everyone's a football manager.
Yeah.
Everyone's a football manager.
It's a game of opinions. That's right.
It is.
But like I said,
Unfortunately, the only opinion that matters at the moment is Nigel Clough's and Andy Garner's and
you can't remember his name, can you?
In them we trust.
Yeah, we do.
but like you alluded to, until we sign a couple of strikers, he's not going anywhere because we need him.
Yeah.
But I mean, also, if you look at play, I mean, Reece Oates, when he was at Hartlepool, I think he barely scored in the first half of the season, and his second half of the season, he got about 20 goals, didn't he? So players do have, patches in the same season. So, but I mean, Nigel will know more about that than we will, seeing him every day in training. But from what we say at the moment, he's not produced this season. But it'll depend on who comes in, I think.
Still a very long way to go in football in terms as well of the season. A lot could happen. Somebody mentioned earlier in the comments, Cam, about Mr. Boateng as well. He's not been seen for a fair few weeks, but he was on the bench on Saturday, mainly probably due to injuries and people missing. He's one which, I don't think we've talked about it over and over again, but it'd be no surprise if we saw him go out, and it wouldn't be that much of a loss, because if any area we could afford to lose a player in terms of an outgoing, it's midfield or defence. That's the area where we are so luxurious with our options.
It's a bloody change. To totally honest, if we did a swap with Barnet and just said, "Hey, you can have Boateng, we'll have Artican back."
Yes, please.
Fine by me. Yes, please. We are crying out for a dead ball specialist, because I'm sorry, we've got a free kick in the last 10 minutes at home against Crewe, and Bailey bloody Cargill is the one that has to bloody step up and take it.
It was a good. I'd left at that point. What happened?
It was a good effort. It
was a good effort. It was on target.
Yeah.
The keeper had to make a save. But the fact that Bailey Cargill, a centre-back, has had to take a free kick in the dying embers of a game to rescue a point speaks volumes to me.
Sorry. At that point, Bailey Cargill identified as a free kick specialist and not as a central defender. Please respect his pronouns.
Two things. He might have been the one that's the only one with the confidence to do it, to have a go. And second thing, that might be something that's in his locker that we don't know about. Because he
I'd
got a
have just
cracking
given
left foot.
Get Flint. Like, absolutely twat it.
That's basically what everybody wanted, though, into Aidan Flint to step up. Come on, Christy, where were you? Always send him forward for a corner. Why not? It'd be hilarious. Right, let's focus, Jim, on upcoming games. We'll do podcast predictions in just a minute. But like we were saying earlier, the importance to bounce back is very much there. I like the fact that we've got the opportunity to bounce back away from home because our away form is better than our home form. But also, it's not going to be too much of an easy ride. They've lost a few of their loan players that have been recalled by parent clubs. They've struggled to keep hold of players, but they're still a squad that have got a fight and a grit and a determination about them. And I was speaking to a Morecambe fan the other week, and even though they seem a little bit down about their situation, actually they're standing in the league with a few good results could catapult them up there. So it's wide open, like we've been saying for weeks. So it's not an easy game. Don't take this for granted. Almost like we did a little bit with the Crew game, to be fair.
I don't think there's any easy games anymore in this league. I really don't. I don't think we've had one easy game this season. Not really. If teams can't play, they'll get organised and they're fit and they'll give you a scrap and make it hard. But we're away. We like being away. I think the Crew game will, rally everybody together, and they'll want to be keen to sort of come out punching. And I'll be disappointed if we don't get a point, but it's going to be tough. But yeah, I'd fancy us to get at least a point.
Is there an added pressure on us, Alan, to come away with 3 points, given the fact that we lost our previous game? Only our second defeat of the season, as we say, but when you're riding high in the lead, the last thing we want at the minute with this fractious mentality that we've got, that comes historically with being a Mansfield fan, for me, there's that adds a little spice and bit of venom of pressure.
Yeah, because if you think about it, after the last 2 games, you would have expected us to possibly either lose or draw at Stockport and beat Crew, theoretically. That didn't happen. We beat Stockport, all ends up as we know. We lost to Crew, fair enough. But I think it'll just spur the boys on, I think we'll go and win Saturday, definitely.
Cam, what about you? What's your thoughts on that added bit of spice? For me, I think we've got to go out and put in at least a good performance where we're getting shots off and getting shots on target and come away with a goal. We've got to go and show to others that the form that we've maintained to this point is not a fluke, that we are capable of delivering.
Yeah. To be honest, you think back to, going back a while, was it August when we played them?
Yeah.
You go back.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
You go back all that way, and they were probably one of the worst sides we've played this season. And then they just went on a miraculous run that propelled them right into the top 3 momentarily, and then lingering around the playoffs, and then they just fell off again. Which, to be honest, for a club like Morecambe, same again, they're still punching way above their weight in League 2. I get they've been, for me personally, watching football for the last 20 years, you're looking sort of like Morecambe are a relatively well-established football league club. But they're not. They have to be bankrolled every season, otherwise they just wouldn't exist. So for them, they're probably just quite happy to be lingering around in the top half still. And so it's frustrating. Like we said before, like you said previously, Craig, you don't want to fall in love with a lone player.
No.
Michael Mellon, what a player he is, and he's going to be a big loss for them. But we've got to take advantage of that. They're going to be down in the dumps because they've lost their best player, and then we've just got to take advantage of it. And Aidan Flint needs to take Farron Rawson clean out because it'd just be funny.
Oh dear, don't get me started on him. Apologies, by the way, in that last comment before I threw to Cam that you probably couldn't hear me as well. I had the wrong fader up. I've got the mixing desk here, so I wasn't looking what I was doing. I've lost that. I've lost that skill. It's been a long time since I've been in a radio studio. All right, so I didn't need that when you had headphones on, did you? When I was commentating, didn't need it. Didn't need to press all the buttons. It's been a long time. Like I said, old age. Carl in the comments has said on the Hiram Boateng thing, people forget how much of a big player Boateng was towards the back end of last season, scoring important goals to get us fighting towards the playoff spots. Like Will Swan, it needs a run of games. 5 or 10 minutes here and there isn't good enough. Hasn't got any time to make an impact. Both good players when fully fit and full of confidence. I think on the Boateng situation, though, and I mean, I don't want this to sound like it's a vendetta against him, because it's not. I think for me, Alan, the difference between this season and last season is we've got more options in midfield, and they're better options. They are better options, which we didn't have last season. We didn't have Aaron Lewis. We didn't have Lewis Reed because he was injured. We didn't have Ollie Clark fully functioning. We didn't have Stephen Quinn for a while. We now have a more depth of options.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd also agree with Carl. That it's like Swan. He hasn't been given the game time, because if you revert back to the podcast when Pimmy and Boateng signed, I was raving about both of them. Saying, "Oh, what fantastic signing!" I remember when they played for Exeter. Pimmy, a lot of people were, not joined at the hip with him last year, shall we say? But look how he's come on this year. Now Boateng had a reasonable end to the season, but he hasn't done the same this year. But I think it's because of the game time, and he's also had some injuries and some, like he's had a young child, and he probably doesn't live up here.
To be fair, Jim, as well, it does go back to that whole game time thing. We said it at the very start of the season when we knew we had a big squad to manage. It is one of those things in football where if you've got a big squad, players who are good quality players on the day, some of them will be kept out.
Yeah. I think sometimes, it doesn't pan out for players at clubs. It doesn't mean he won't go to another club and have a good spell there. But you do get the feeling it's just not happening for him at us. And I mean, we worked it out, like you said, we've got sort of 6-7 options you'd put in ahead of him, and he just doesn't seem to, hasn't happened for him. And
plus the fact that it's usual case you don't change your winning team.
No, that's right. And to be fair, if he's not got the time, that sort of tells a little bit of a story on how he's performed around training, and there's a reason. I mean, if he was ripping it up in training, he'd be in the team. So.
Certainly would. Well, only time will tell on that one. And talking of time, we are running out of it, so it's time to play the second best jingle ever heard on the Mansfield Matters podcast. The first, of course, Alan, was...
Biscuit jingle.
One day he will sing it when I throw it to him. So will they win, lose or draw? And what will be the score? It's the guessing game that brings you zero fame, but to be the best you must outguess the rest. So will they win, lose or draw? And what will be the score? In the League or Cup, you just make it up, because they're just works of fictions. It's podcast predictions. Will they win, lose or draw? When I wrote that jingle, I desperately wanted Alan Wilson to sing it, but he so far hasn't, and we're stuck with that horrendous version of the jingle, which we play over and over again. Right, 2 games to look ahead to, Cam. Obviously, Morecambe on Saturday, and then the rearranged game with Forest Green on... it is Forest Green, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. On Tuesday night, where home fans will be in the North Stand for the first time in a while as well. And in order for that to work, we are keen to stress that we want new fans to come and more fans to come through the gates rather than just people transferring the tickets across, which I've seen a few of. So it's imperative that happens as well. It will also, I believe, happen against Sutton later on in the season because of their low travelling numbers. More on that in a little bit, though. Obviously, Forest Green, Troy Deeney now their head coach or manager or whatever job title he wants to have today, chief vegan, whatever. He's desperately trying to get them back up the table and steer them clear of back-to-back relegations. We'll come to that game in a minute. But first, Cam, I want your prediction for Morecambe, please.
We've got a relatively good record at Morecambe, haven't we?
1-1 last time we played them.
They've got Faz Rawson at centre-back. Come on.
They are very good at home, though, apparently.
They've got Faz Rawson at centre-back. Come on.
I'm sorry, Faz Rawson versus Aidan Flint. It's not hard.
Sorry, Faz. Lovely bloke.
Yeah, sorry. We'll always love you, Faz. Thank you. I'm going to go 3-0 again. 3-0 Stags win. We've done it to it once. I think we'll do it again. I think we need a big result to bounce back after the disappointment of last Saturday. Because otherwise, I think the world will fall in over Mansfield.
Most probably. Man of the match?
Flint.
There we go. Right, Alan, you're next on Morecambe.
Morecambe 0, Mansfield Town 2, Giorgio Mauricio.
Giorgio Mauricio. Didn't know we'd signed someone new. Jim.
2-1 win. I'll go Aidan Flint, man of the match. I think.
Aidan Flint. There we go. Copied. I am going to go 6-1 win. And I'm going to go for man of the match. I'm going to go for Lucas Akins. I'm going to back him. Lucas Akins hat-trick. It's going to all pop off. Who needs a striker when you've got Lucas Akins scoring a goal?
I'm sorry.
What?
Craig, who are you?
Look, I don't know what you're trying to say.
What has happened since
Pessimistic.
the end of last season? Like, we're doing well, but Jesus, what's happened?
Listen, I'm going to Morecambe on Saturday. If we don't win 6-1, I'm going to be annoyed. It's a long way to drive, right? No. I don't know. I just got this feeling we're going to batter someone at some point. I'm being bold.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for a 6-1 win. In terms of Forest Green, by the way, I'm going to go for a much subtler 2-0 win with Christy Pym as man of the match. Jim, you're next.
That was good. 2-0 and Davis, man of the match.
DKD. Alan.
3-0 Stags, Brunt.
There we go. And Cam, finishing off with you. No, not really.
3-0 and Ollie Clark.
Ollie Clark.
Good
A
shout.
reminder of the podcast prediction rules, by the way, that if your player doesn't get on the pitch for even a second, you do lose 2 points. So
Sorry,
brave from Cam.
can I just say something?
Yeah.
Nigel Clough, you're a knobhead.
Right. Okay.
How has Ollie Clark pulled out that performance against Stockport and then you
Totally
drop
back that
him
up.
the next game?
It-
Why
yeah.
is that a thing?
I think it's injuries, isn't it? If you play him too much, he just breaks, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, to be fair. But he put unreal against Stockport and then he drops him for Crewe. And we just done nothing in the midfield. And Clark could have done an absolute job in that midfield on Saturday. But everyone's a football manager, eh?
Everyone is indeed a football manager. A reminder of the podcast prediction rules. You must submit your guess no later than 1 hour and 1 minute prior to kick off for your selected game. And in terms of the man of the match vote, as long as they get on the pitch for 1 second of that game, you won't lose 2 points. But if you pick a player that doesn't get on the pitch, you do lose 2 points. So just a little reminder, pick well in your choices, gentlemen. Cam, your final thoughts on this double header? Obviously, a good opportunity for me to get 6 points on the board and no reason why we can't or shouldn't.
I don't want to just like say we have to win every game, but we're going to a Morecambe side that we beat comfortably earlier this season. They're already down because their best players left, and we are very good on the road. There's no reason. And then for Forest Green, they're second bottom for a reason. So we've got to win. We've got to win.
Got to win. They were the words of Cam Felton. Jim, your final thoughts ahead of the 2 double headers?
Don't worry, I'm not going to say Hawkins.
I know, it's a preemptive one.
My thoughts are, we are arguably the best team in the league. I think we arguably are, and we shouldn't. Nothing and no one to fear, and just go out and play our best game, front foot forward, no problem.
Alan?
3 words, 6 points, please.
I had to do quick maths then, and it was indeed 3 words. Well done. Cam, thanks as always for joining us. We'll see you next.
Are we doing Forest Green predictions?
Right. For that, I am turning him off. Did we not just do Forest Green predictions?
Said,
is it me? Have I written them down?
He said 3-0.
On that piece of paper. Are they on that piece of paper? Yes. Did he predict Forest Green? This is why I have to kick him out of the show. Absolute idiot. Do you know what? And on that note, I'm so fuming. On that note, he's not even getting a piece of birthday cake on next week's show, virtual or otherwise. This is the Mansfield Matters Podcast. Good night. There you have it. That's all we've got time for on this week's Mansfield Matters podcast. My thanks, as ever, to the Mansfield Matters podcast panel, and of course to you guys who are watching or listening at home. As always, if you want to get involved with the show and have your say during the week on your team, at MTFC Matters is the place to be on all things social media. And of course, if you want to play along with podcast predictions, the link that you need is in the description. You must submit your guesses no later than 1 hour and 1 minute prior to kick-off on Saturday afternoon and on Tuesday night as well. Right, we'll see you next week when we possibly could be live on a certain someone's birthday. Yes, we'll have cake as well. Don't forget the cards. This is the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters podcast. Next stop, Morecambe.